All right, everybody, welcome back to Ohio State. I am Jake, and I gotta apologize. It's been a little while since I did a video. It's to say you're missing what I do here. I don't know, maybe or maybe you're not. I think it's really fun, and I try to do as much as I can. My job gets pretty busy, which takes up, that lunch hour where I would typically come home and do these. And it's getting nicer and nicer outside. Today kind of sucks. I don't know, it's Ohio for you. But it's getting nicer and nicer, so I go outside a lot more, with my kids, and just want to be outdoors doing all the projects I've been waiting on. So this sort of takes a back burner, so, I kind of apologize for that. But again, that's assuming someone out there is waiting for my videos to release, and I doubt it. But regardless, super cool to do this stuff. So as the title said, first I got to talk about Gary, the Last Ranger. He does this really cool under 1K wall where he puts several channels on there that are under 1,000 subs just to kind of help us and promote us. He'd asked me to be on it once. I don't remember this, but I 100% believe him because it sounds just like something I would do. I tend to out-modest myself or out-humble myself where, he asked me to be on it, and I thought, why would you want me to be on it? I think he said it was very early on, so maybe, when I had 50 or some odd subscribers. Why do you want me on? I'm not doing anything different. Just show him a big gorilla mitts and talking some nonsense. So I said, no, it's okay. I appreciate the offer, basically. Well, he came back just recently and said, are you sure you don't want to be on a wall? Well, again, I didn't remember the first time. So yeah, sure, man. That's very cool, very generous of you. And I apologize for the first time and apologize for not remembering it. But regardless, so I'm on the wall now. Sean at EDC DEN, he put out a video to everybody that's on that wall talking about or asking what knife started it all. So I had to approach this differently. And it's an interesting question. I love this part about this community is asking questions like this. I've done a couple before too where, when did you start collecting? Because I think that is a big key as to what your collection looks like. If you started collecting, when you were younger and it was, your parents' money buying it for you, typically it seems like you stay in the budget range for a long time. If you start collecting when you're an adult, it's your own money, you kind of see value right away and you jump into maybe those, Benchmade Spyderco's $100 and some dollar knives. You start there and then work your way up. And so you don't even mess with the lower stuff. So here's where I'm at. About knocked the chair over. Here's where I'm at is, 7, 8, 9-year-old Jake gets a couple of knives to start off with from his dad. And I'm very lucky to still have these knives because it's just a fun memory. This is, the brand of Japan and the mystery stainless steel. There's nothing there. It's obviously it used to be a slip joint. There's not, there's really no slipping left on it. It's gritty. That's really what it is. It's a gritty joint. And, it's that joint's got a lot of arthritis in it, basically. So there's that, and then the next one was, which is very clearly like a buck 112 knockoff. But again, you're 8, 9 years old, and I'm living out in the country. I'm sure I did the dumbest things with these knives, and they got real beat up. This one, I'm really shocked is that it still actually has a lot of tension left. That's pretty good for basically a 30-some-year-old knife. So look, I grew up 7 acres, farmland. We did not personally farm, but farmland all around us. We had 7 acres, just country life. And so, we had a creek behind us, and I'm sure this fell in there several times. I'd go down in there, frogs, all that nonsense, whatever. So I wouldn't have expected a good knife for a kid. I probably lost more than what I've ever retained when it comes to these knives anyways. So these are cool to have, but I cannot claim that these really started my collecting. They started the fact that I like knives. Again, growing up in that setting, everybody around me had pocket knives, so I always had a pocket knife. We'd take them to school, really, I'm not saying it was 100, whatever, but teachers had pocket knives, so we had pocket knives. Just little Swiss Army knives or something like that, nothing crazy. But in high school that all quit. But when I was just a kid or whatever, probably junior high, I remember taking little Swiss Army pocket knives to school. So I always had one. So as I got older, again, you get older, and then do you move on from the budgets or not? I'm going to try not to be too long-winded about this, but to move on from something like this, yeah, absolutely. And so what I really want to point out is the knife that started it all to me had to be one that I had some of the most bestest memories of. And there's a couple in there, but I'll be able to point out one. So one of which, first of all, I couldn't find a release date on a lot of these. So I basically just go to YouTube and then search for the oldest video of that. But some honorable mentions regardless. The Boker Nano with lime green. That one was it's a $50 knife back then. I don't know what it's discontinued now, or maybe it is. But $50 for that was a lot of money at that time, whatever time frame that was. And the steel I think was like 440C, which is not crazy, but it had a label. These didn't even have most of my knives didn't even have a label on them. But I was always a big fan of Ken Onion. But that Boker Nano made me realize a lot of other designers too. So I give that kind of an honorable mention. I also, at the same time, got a Boker Subcom black blade, serrated orange. That was kind of a little later, I suppose, because I had worked at Geek Squad for so many years, and those are Geek Squad colors. So I had gotten those kind of I remember kind of getting those same time range. So those are in there. A knife that I still have, and just memory because this thing's beat to snot. This is the Kershaw Select Fire, and you can still get this actually in black. I don't know if you can get this. It says U.S. Navy SEALs on it, whatever there. I don't know why I got serrated, but I needed it at the time. And I've always been into multi-tools, and this really checked a lot of boxes for that. So things like this too. This is a good honorable mention. But the number one knife, again, I'd followed Ken Onion. He was at Kershaw. I felt like he left and maybe went to CRKT or something because a lot of more his designs. And they contract out or whatever they do for there. But he sold some designs to CRKT, so I started going to them a little more. So I'm going to claim the knife that started it all. My dad has one of these. I don't have it anymore. We bought them at the same time. The CRKT M21-04. And that was a big beefy knife. And at the time, I really remember paying a good $80 for that. And that was a lot of money. That was a lot of money for me. And, whether it deserved that or not, go back. You got to figure back in time frame. Because if you look at the materials on that thing, it ain't great. But it was a big knife. I think it was like my first liner lock, and I could flip it. And it had a secondary lock that I actually hated. But, just do without it. But man, it was just a big, beefy knife. And you can see by the pictures there that it was just a really cool knife. My dad bought one at the same time. Again, I really think it was on sale for $80. That might have been like $100 knife when they first launched. And I just really thought I needed it. But again, if you look at those materials, back then, we didn't have, we were very spoiled. I said that several times. We're very, very spoiled. So I'm going to go with that. That is the knife because I have fond memories of it, or I guess I shouldn't say fond. I have the most memories of that knife because I carried it a lot. And if you go back, again, I went on YouTube, found reviews of it for almost 13 years ago. So that probably is really the one that made me realize, I want better, Now, granted, I really basically kind of live in that 50 to 150 is about the max for cost that I go. I've got a couple that are over that. But for the most part, everything I look at is, around $100. So I really haven't ventured out too far, but that's because I see a lot of value in those knives still. I think it's awesome though that there are so many more expensive knives, and that we all get to see them through media like this, and people purchase them and talk about them and review them. So I think that's great. Personally, again, it's all just a decision on what you do with your knives. Certainly what you can afford. All that stuff just kind of rolls into one. So I'm going to stop blabbing because I got some other videos to shoot. And I appreciate you guys listening and watching. Thank you to Gary, as the last ranger. Again, I'll put his information down below. Thank you to Sean at the EDC DEN. It was a really cool idea. My dog's waking up. He's going to get really loud because he's old. So you guys have a great day.